Okay, so let's talk about my sleeping habits throughout life. Now, if you guys know me, if you've been around for a while, then you know that my sleep schedule has always been kind of messy and irregular, which isn't so uncommon for people, especially nowadays with all the stresses and anxieties of the world. People are not sleeping, and if they are going to bed at a decent time, they're not usually staying asleep or they're just not getting REM sleep. So let's go ahead and rewind and kind of touch base on another podcast I did, which, if you want to listen to that, I will link that somewhere. And that is the paper route story, and it kind of branches from that. I think it really starts from there. I used to deliver newspapers with my parents overnight. Sometimes, getting up at most times getting up at midnight and delivering newspapers till like 7 to 9 a.m. roughly. Sometimes a little later if bad weather or there was just more to do, whatever have you. So, and I did that from a very very young age, like preteen to like 8, 9, 10 years old, whatever I said, I don't quite remember. I'm kind of paraphrasing that, but like very, very young, I started delivering newspapers with my parents, so my sleep schedule was immediately and irreparably fucked. Because I'd be up all night, and then I would either go to school the next day, or if there wasn't school, I would oftentimes go with my parents as like a babysitting measure because they wouldn't be at home because like my brother wasn't there, or my brother was with my dad, so my mom had to take me somewhere or whatever have you, and or my nana was busy, so I couldn't go over there to be babysat, and yeah, I would end up just going out and cleaning houses, doing like trades work with my dad, like ending up doing plumbing, electrical work, painting, cleaning, whatever have you. And I would go out and do that all day, and I'd come home, and I had pretty much been off and on awake since midnight till like 4 or 5 p.m. Only catching some Z's while driving in the car, and that just kind of set a precedent for a few years in a row as I was a kid. That would just skew my sleeping schedule. And then as anxiety worsened in like seventh and eighth grade, as depression started to set in, my sleeping schedule got worse. I was playing video games till late into the night, which is fine. I enjoyed doing that. But I would, play video games till like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. sometimes. Try to get up at 7 o'clock to go to school. Would end up missing that a lot of times and just end up going in at 10 or 11 because I'd still be asleep. That caused a lot of stress and a lot of friction. My parents getting mad because I wasn't getting up for school. But it's like, motherfuckers, you did this to me. You skewed my schedule so bad that I can't fix it because that's how basically I was raised to be like that. From, obviously as like a little kid, I didn't do that. It was pretty normal. But as I was developing into like my young teen years, you guys set that. You guys fucked that. So don't blame me for my bad sleeping habits. Obviously, I can take responsibility for it as well, but I felt it was extremely unfair to be blamed for bad sleeping habits when they were the cause of that. They shifted my entire waking day forward by hours. So I'd end up missing a lot of school, and I end up being like that, whatever have you. So that was part of the reason why I had a lot of bad grades, was because I was missing classes. I didn't have as much time to get homework done. I was unmotivated. I was depressed. I was anxious, which wasn't from not sleeping, but those things kind of contributed. And I also didn't realize back then how much caffeine was in most soda, and I would drink a whole bunch of regular sodas every day. Now I'd be drinking 3 or 4 cans of Mountain Dew after I got home from school. Maybe not four on like an extreme day where I was up super late, but like on average maybe 3 cans of Mountain Dew or 3 bottles of Mountain Dew and other sodas, which had, I guess, probably 70, 80 milligrams of caffeine in it, which added up, especially when I'm drinking those at like 2 a.m. That was contributing to me being awake, and I never really considered just how much caffeine would affect that. So that goes on throughout like all my school years. And then when I finally graduate, oh, and also that on top of that, when I was like 15, 2008, I started working at the kitchen job. So that didn't really impede my sleep schedule, but now that took up free time where I felt the need to make up for the time lost on the weekends being at work, because I would go to school, and then on Friday and Saturday, I would go from school to work on Friday, and then Saturday I'd go to work, and then Sunday morning I'd go to work oftentimes. And so I'd be losing a lot of weekend time. It's not like I was doing much anyway, but I'd be losing a lot of weekend time at work. So I'd felt the need to push back my hobbies and my interests and my gaming and stuff until after work. So I'd stay up even later, making up for lost time that I spent at work. Because Even on the weekend, I was waking up between like 12 and 3 p.m. because that's just how my schedule was. Um, bed at 4, 5 a.m., wake up at noon. Sometimes bed at 6 a.m., wake up at 12. I would sleep like 10 hours straight sometimes. But in all of that sleep, and anytime I managed to actually go to sleep, I struggle to stay asleep. And by struggle to stay asleep, I mean I cannot fucking stay asleep. I have such an issue waking up um, 10 to 20 times a night. And I mean, like, I'd wake up to roll over. I used to be such a light sleeper that my phone would vibrate and I'd wake up. I had such an a lot of it was anxiety, waking up in tumultuous, tense lifestyle at home sometimes with parental drama, sibling drama, whatever have you, in not a not safe environment sometimes, and so I'd wake up on a pin drop, and so that made it so I could never like fully rest. And then outside of that, I would wake up to roll over. I would just wake up because of like YouTube videos playing that would wake me up, or not YouTube videos, like a podcast playing. I'd wake up and whatever. So I just never slept fully through the night, and I never really have, even to this day. I'm a little tiny bit better about that now because I don't drink caffeine till like after 3, 4 p.m. at the latest. I might be finishing a drink or something like that that has caffeine in it, but my brain also prevents me. So after graduating and where I started taking on work like quote unquote full time, I went from like 15 hours to 35 hours. And I'd be working 5 days a week: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Uh, yes, all throughout that, I'd be working from either noon to 8:30 or 2 to 8:30 or 3 to 8:30, kind of depending on the schedule. On average, it was probably most of the time 12. But yeah, I'd be doing that, and I'd be waking up 30 minutes before I had to go into work, either at 12, at 2, or at 3. I'd wake up 30 minutes before to go to work because I didn't go to bed till 3, 4, 5 a.m. And I would just be so exhausted, and because I woke up so much during the night, I'd stay in bed longer because I wasn't sleeping straight through. I'd wake up every 30 minutes and be awake for 2 or 3 minutes, fall back asleep for 10 minutes, wake up again. It was just that kind of thing. It was like a pendulum on when I would wake up randomly and for how long randomly. So, and that kind of was the norm for me for a very long time. Just waking up like that constantly, not sleeping through the night, getting anxieties, and waking up depressed. And then I went through a phase of existentialism, still living in my parents' house, where I would be up till 8 a.m. I'd just be up the entire night and then go to sleep for like 2 hours before waking up again, trying to wake up at 11 a.m., shifting my schedule back to 11 and 12 a.m., wake up, do some writing, play some games, go to work, whatever have you. And I had a period of existentialism, of a crisis, where I was just thinking too much about the universe, my place in it, my life, death, and people around me dying, and God, and all this other fucking metaphysical shit. And that would keep me awake for many, many, many nights in a row, where I would just be unable to close my eyes without being like trapped in the black hole that was an answerless question. And that fucked me up a lot too. So that's pretty much been like my sleeping schedule for my entire life. And then we get into recent years where my schedule has actually shifted quite a bit. I'm talking about like today. Um, my schedule is still like falling asleep around 2 a.m., but I kind of stop playing games and I stop being on my PC most of the time around midnight. And I usually get up from my desk and I go hang out with the bunnies from midnight till like 12, from like 12 to 12:45 to 1 o'clock, while watching an episode of Supernatural with a friend, or watching X-Files myself, or recently watching Jurassic World, Chaos Theory, whatever show I might be invested in at the moment. Better Call Saul, or rewatching Breaking Bad, or whatever have you. I do that from like midnight to 1 a.m., get an episode in while hanging out with the bunnies, and then I go lay down at 1 a.m., and then I would dick around on my laptop for a little bit, messing with some audio files, doing like checking documents, and just kind of browsing and stuff like that. I hang out on my phone a little bit until probably about 2 a.m., and then I try to put my stuff aside and try to sleep. And it takes me, and it always has taken me, like 30 or 40 minutes of actively trying to sleep to fall asleep. Now, I fall asleep watching YouTube videos. Now that I have better internet connection, because at my parents' house I had dog shit internet for my entire life, and I couldn't play Destiny raids because my connection was so bad. So I played so many video games by myself. Video games that required teamwork, I played by myself because my connection was so bad I could not actively play with my friends without being a detriment. So, and actually, not even till today, but in recent times, I would actually, YouTube ads got so egregious and aggressive in late couple years that when I'm going to sleep now with my Roku plugged into my TV with YouTube up, the ads would pop up so often that whenever an ad popped up, it would wake me up. It's like when I was younger, I'd go to sleep watching like movies on VHS or DVD, and every time the VHS reached the end of the tape, it would stop, it would auto rewind, and then it would stop at the beginning of the tape, but it doesn't auto play the tape. So every time I'd hear the TV go quiet because the tape would stop reaching the end of my Rurouni Kenshin marathon tape, I'd wake up to the sound of it rewinding because now there's silence in the room, and I'd wait until it rewound, and I'd grab the remote and I'd press play again. And I would do that all night. So I'd wake up a couple times a night for like the 2-hour long tape or whatever have you, just to reset it and play it again. If I went to sleep watching a DVD, a movie, a DVD, a Blu-ray, not really Blu-ray, but just DVDs, a lot of times like Jackass and stuff I go to sleep to, I'd wake up to the I'd wake up to that on the menu, and that would just be on like a 20-second loop. So I'd have to like find the remote and hit play again for the DVD to start over again. And sometimes I'd just hit play and I'd watch the beginning again for like 10 minutes and then go back to sleep. It was stuff like that. So that kind of evolved to modern times where I would actually go to sleep with my Roku remote in my hand. So whenever an ad would pop up, I'd recognize the ad that was playing, know that it was a 10-second skippable ad, and hold the remote for the 10 seconds, and then subconsciously, with my eyes closed and face in the pillow, press, OK to skip the ad. The ad would skip, the video would continue. Or I'd wake up to some random YouTuber's live stream that I don't know, and I would click out of it, find and spend like 3 or 4 minutes finding a different video to start. And it's like a weird like OCP thing that I have, obsessive compulsive personality type thing, which I'm not diagnosed with, but like my therapist have said, like I have those traits and whatever. There's a few things I'm not diagnosed with, but my therapist has said like I would be willing to bet you have some form of that. So, as a millennial, I say, yes, I have this. I have ADHD. I'm not diagnosed, but like I'm right there where I pretty much just need confirmation kind of thing. But yeah, it's part of like my tendencies where it's like I can't just click on any video to listen to go to sleep. I don't want to watch this video. I don't know this video, so I put on something comfortable. And that I need to do that because it's an anxiety quell where like I need to play something familiar of somebody or something that I know and I am intimately familiar with because it's a comfort thing for me. So like oftentimes with VHS tapes, I would have the same VHS tape to go to sleep to for months at a time. One time I had the movie I, Robot playing, I think for like a month straight, just because it was a comfort thing. I'd recognize the sounds, I'd recognize the dialogue, I know where I am, and I wouldn't have to like, it wouldn't catch my attention because I knew what was going on, so I wouldn't like, what's going on in this, and like get distracted from trying to sleep by watching a video or having a video or movie or tape play that I didn't recognize. And that would often happen. Every time I would switch out a VHS tape, I would then be engrossed for the first day that it's playing because I'd be familiarizing myself with it. Any Naruto movie that I put on, like The Stone of Gelel or Clash in the Land of Snow, Ninja Clash in the Land of Snow, I would rewatch those the first like 2 nights in a row to refamiliarize myself. That way for the next month or two I could go to sleep with it without worrying about it distracting me from sleeping, but still soothing the anxieties of trying to sleep. And all of this, to have all that playing, people might be saying, just go to sleep in the dark, just go to sleep in the quiet. I cannot. It is nearly impossible for me to fall asleep in the quiet because I become hyper aware of every noise around me, every little bump, scratch, noise outside, the wind, anything like that. I become hyper aware of it, and my imagination runs wild with things that I don't recognize. If there's a weird sound, my brain goes crazy with it. I will hallucinate because, and I'm gonna get to that in a minute. I still wake up hallucinating. Did just recently. I just posted a short on my channel of me trying to record my closet because I was hallucinating the edges of my clothes being manipulated by invisible hands. Um, so lose my train of thought here. I need to have those things playing that I recognize because it makes me feel comfortable and because it keeps my brain from actively thinking. I can't go to sleep listening to music because music turns the synapses of my brain on too much. It charges my brain with emotions, with memories, with feelings, and I sing along to it in my head, and then the song ends. It ends and it changes too much where it keeps triggering my attention, it keeps re-grabbing my attention if a song changes. So I can't go to sleep listening to music. It has to be a podcast where there's a conversation going that I can kind of feel a part of and get lost in and doze off to. So I can't sleep in the silence and I can't sleep in the total pitch darkness if I'm alone. I can sleep in the darkness if I'm sharing the room or space with somebody, but if I'm in the dark, I become too aware and I feel creeped out by the dark. I do. And I'm man enough to admit that the dark freaks me out. I like being in the dark with other people. I don't like being in the dark alone. And yeah, the TV gives off some light when I'm going to sleep, but it doesn't give off enough light, and like it doesn't fill the room with any amount of light that's comfortable. It actually casts deeper shadows that make me skeptical and wary of the shadows. I don't feel safe, and that's my problem. So I do sleep with like a dim lamp on and the TV, which makes it really hard to have a girlfriend. I remember used to drive Sam nuts all the time to have podcast playing, and I do feel guilty about it, but it's like I can't sleep otherwise. And yeah, I can put in headphones. I can sleep with headphones and now listening to those things, but there's also a weird unsettling feeling of the noise only being in my head, and I know that I'm surrounded by quiet, and that makes me uneasy. And that sounds so stupid. If I'm going to sleep listening to headphones, but the room is quiet, the room is less safe. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to anybody else but me? There has to be noise in the room for the room to feel isolated from a threat. And there is no threat. And I know there's no threat, but that's just how my brain operates. That's how my overthinking operates, especially if I'm having a lot of emotional turmoil at a specific point in my life. If there's a particular thing that's causing me a lot of stress and anxiety, I need to have something to keep my brain occupied while I'm trying to sleep. Otherwise, I will think myself into a spiral, and it will just get worse. So, let's move on to hallucinations. I have, for the longest time, had a lot of random, sporadic hallucinations that don't seem to be triggered by anything specific besides stress and exhaustion. If I'm too tired, I don't sleep well at all because I will have hallucinations. And they range from spiders crawling under my pillow, me being actually wrapped in webs, and I can physically feel the webs on me as I pull them off. I can feel a spider crawling across my chest as it goes under the blanket, and I react. I wake up, I throw the blankets off me, I grab a flashlight, I'm shining it everywhere, I'm looking, and I can still see remnants of webs. I can still see blips and blobs of things that don't look right, but they don't exist. And before anyone says anything, I do not get hallucinations during the day. It's not an awake thing. It's just my subconscious brain putting me in a lingering limbo dream awake state where I can visualize the thing that my brain is thinking about and projecting. I have had things in the past where I saw a blonde girl, or like a really light ashy brunette, standing at the edge of my bed wearing a white nightgown, and I couldn't see her feet, but I knew her feet were bare, like unsocked, unshoed, and she was standing there just looking at me. I looked at her, and I went, huh, and I rolled over and went to sleep. And she didn't exist. It wasn't real, but my brain made it up. And there's been times where I'll wake up. A big famous one for me in my head that I like to tell is having a shadow hand reaching on the outside of my window, trying to open the window, and then using a coat hanger to try to pick the lock of the window, and I can see it moving, and I can hear the metallic scrape of the coat hanger trying to infiltrate the lock, and then the hand slinks away. And that was outside of a window that was too high off the ground for any average normal height. You'd have to be 8 feet tall to comfortably reach how the hand was reaching, so that wasn't real. At the old apartment, I was sleeping in the living room at a time so I could have a bedroom for my office, so I put my bed in the living room, and there was a double sliding glass door, and standing on the other side of the glass door was a full Shadow Man silhouette, just standing and looking at me, and he was backlit as if as if cars' headlights were shining on him. The problem is, this was on the second, quote unquote, the second floor, like a raised ranch, higher up than the ground style house, where the headlights couldn't possibly be shining at that angle to reach them, on the porch that was locked and closed in, and he was standing in a pile. He was standing within a pile of garbage I had to take to the dump the next day. Just a bunch of trash bags and stuff like that in cardboard boxes, so nobody could be physically standing there. And I could see him behind the glass door through the drawn curtains. The curtains that were pulled over the glass door, I could still see the shadow through multiple layers of physicality, so could not exist. I recently hallucinated that the curtains from my window were like bellowing out toward me, as if something was standing behind them and creeping, like standing behind them to hide, but was creeping in my direction trying to get close to me. And as I noticed them, the curtain like lost momentum and kind of like just fell back to the wall. That wasn't real. So there's stuff like that, and those things only happen when I'm sleeping or trying to sleep or waking up from. If I'm falling asleep, I might wake up and hallucinate. And there have been times where I try to record it, but obviously there's nothing there. So, all in all, it makes for going to sleep kind of an ordeal. There's like a very specific set of things I have to do. I can't sleep if it's hot. If it's like 70 degrees in my room, I cannot sleep because I have to be in a blanket. I sleep with socks on, I sleep in pajamas, and I sleep with a shirt on. The minimum, and I sleep with my comforter on me. The minimum amount of fabric on my body that I can sleep with is a tank top, pajama pants, socks, and my blanket on me. That's it. I have to be in a cold room, otherwise I cannot sleep. So summer fucking sucks, and I have to crank my AC to make myself comfortable. Hell on earth. Hell on fucking earth. And that's obviously not everything. With anything of mine, any story I tell, or any experience I share, there's always more details that I didn't get to, because right now I'm just going off the cuff. I'm going off of the top of my head. So forgive me if I remember something right after this, or if I mentioned something in a video or a podcast before that I neglected to mention here. It just slips my mind because I'm just going off the top of my head. So anyways, I am going to wrap it up because I've been doing a lot of talking and recording a video and doing this, and I just want to stop talking for a little bit so I can play a game before going to work. So if you enjoyed, leave a like, share this with somebody who might relate, and share any kind of sleeping experiences or troubles that you have. And that's going to do it for this podcast, for this YouTube video. Subscribe for more. Check out my book series at vengeancebooks.com, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.